Hello everyone, I'm glad to opportunity to present this presentation. Thank you for being here today. My name is Yunyue and my group members are Yingfei and Xingyi. Today we are talking about the flooding in Kaviakura, and we are going to divide our talk into 4 parts. First, I will introduce Kaviakura's basic information and site analysis, and after that, Xingyi will analyze the inhabitant and aboriginal culture there. Then Yingfei will introduce emergency scenarios in this region and will give some rescue precedent. And finally, Xingyi will show our theoretical framework. Okay, let's move to the first part. You may have some confusion where is Kaviakura. Kaviakura Indigenous Protected Area is located in Western Australia and has an area of 4.59 million hectares. It's inhabited by some of the local indigenous people, and we can see from the map published by Bush Bliss in 2017 that there is only one community in this area named Kaviakura Community. Furthermore, the closest city is Alice Spring, about 700 kilometers away, and the nearest community is the Aboriginal community of Wollongong, about 100 kilometers away. Next, I would like to discuss Kaviakura's history. According to Gunnar Council in 2011, many old Kaviakura residents were first exposed to non-indigenous people in the 1950s and early 1960s. During this period, many Kaviakura people were brought to live in Papua, which is a government settlement in the Northern Territory. In 1982, the Kaviakura community began construction to fulfill the Pintupi people's wish to return and live on their traditional land. In 1983, the residents came to live there permanently. In 2001, a flood flooded the community, and the residents were evacuated to a temporary shelter in Alice Springs. It wasn't until August 2002 that the residents were able to return to the community after repairs and revolutions were completed. And then in 2014, the Kaviakura IPA was established. And these tables show the population and other data for this community. They are from the Australia Bureau of Statistics in 2021, and the data shows that there are 171 indigenous people living here, including 53.9% women and 46.1% men. The average age of these people is 29 years, and the average household size is 6 persons. The average weekly income per household is $974, and the weekly rent is $50. Other important information about the region is the language spoken, the education, and the employment situation. According to the data until 2021, most of population speaks the local dialect, and only 2.4% speak English at home in 2021. On the education side, the proportion of people aged 20 to 24 who will attend year 12 or equivalent or above was 0, and for employment, the proportion of employed people to the total census population was only 12.2% in 2016. Let's move to the second part, site analysis. I will illustrate the 3 aspects of geography, climate, and infrastructure. According to Kaviakura IPA and regions, the Kaviakura IPC is located in the dune belt of the gypsum and Great Sandy deserts in Western Australia, so there are large areas of red earth plains and sand dunes. As can be seen from this map, many of these dunes are distributed vertically. In addition, there are few surface streams here, but many underground rivers. This picture shows the red soil here. Additionally, the location of the Kiwakara community is in the Gypsum Desert, near the border of Western Australia and the Northern Territory, southwest of Lake Marquis. The geographical coordinates are 22 degrees south latitude and 128 degrees east longitude. From the map on the right, it can be seen that the residents of the inhabitants are concentrated within the community. Okay, now let's move on to climate. Into these images from the Bureau of Meteorology, this area of Kiwakara has a desert climate with hot summers and mild winters and rainfall below 350 mm. The three sets of data published by Meteor Blue show in detail the temperature, rainfall, and wind speed of Kiwakara. It can be seen that the temperature in Kiwakara is hot in summer and warm in winter. This chart shows the annual temperature and precipitation of the Kiwakara from 1979 to 2023. It's interesting to note that there was significantly more precipitation than in other years during the period 2000 to 2002, when the Kiwakara experienced a major flood. As can be seen from the wind rose chart, the dominant wind direction at Kiwakara is from the southeast to the northwest. I will briefly analyze the infrastructure of this community. As we can see from this map, the community has a health center, a shop, a school, a women's center, a sports ground, and an arts center. In addition, from the map in the top left corner, we can see the road distribution in and around the community. I will now hand over to Xingyi, who will offer some information about the inhabitant and Aboriginal culture of Kiwakara.
Thank you, Yunyue, for introducing the site analysis and local climate. I am Xingyi Lan, and I will keep introducing the inhabitant and Aboriginal culture of the Kiwakara area. The fauna, which is basically the animals live around the Kiwakara community. So we have many indigenous species living around the desert, and they're closely bonded to the Aboriginal culture of the Kiwakara community, such as the skink. They are a kind of food source of the Aboriginal people, and these indigenous species are mostly recognized as being close to extinction. They are ranked in different levels. For instance, the VU stands for considered to be at high risk of unnatural extinction without further human interventions, and NT considered for close to the endangered in the near future. This happens because the colonial people, they bring many invasion species such as the cat and fox. They prey on these indigenous species, whereas no other animals could prey on them. The same situation happens on the flora, which is the plantation of the Kiwakara area community. The indigenous species, such as the soft spinifex, are used by the indigenous people as weapon and also housing adhesive, and whereas the mugla, the tree, has been worshipped by the Aboriginal people as a symbol of long life. And they are also very well burned wood. The Aboriginal people also use them as the material to make tools like spear. However, the invasion plantations, such as the African foxtail, they spread really fast and quickly take over the living space of the indigenous plantations. What is more, the African foxtail, they burn really fast. They are really easy burn, which increase the happening of the possibility of happening a wildfire. The tribe migration. In the 1960s, the tribe people, the Aboriginal people living in the Gypsum Desert, have been forced to migrate to the east, to Papua and Alice Springs, due to the Australian government, because they started the Blue Strike missile test in the Gypsum Desert. And it is in that period the stolen generation happens, which is the Australian government decide to take away the children from the Aboriginal people, and in the name of having a better education, they taught those Aboriginal children only English and Western culture, which cut them from their family, from their hometown. And it is also the time where some of the Aboriginal traditions and language get lost. In the 1973, the Aboriginal people are allowed to migrate back to their hometown, and they keep migrating west. And then in 1983, that is where the Kiwia-Kura community have settled there. The Pintupi 9, these are the 9 people that when the migration happened in the 1960s, they were not found by the Australian government, and they survive on themselves in the Gibson Desert in 2.5 decades. So they have a inherited traditions and language. They are called the Lost Tribe. The Aboriginal culture, I divided it into 3 parts: the art, traditions, and language. The Pintupi art. One of the famous Pintupi art is the sand acrylic painting. They are usually made up by 3 colors: red, yellow, white, and black, which symbolize sunrise, sunset, clay pans, and sand hills. So it's like the environment and the sky the Aboriginal people live in. The Pintupi art is basically many dots, and they form into circular shape to represent the life journey and the earth song of the Aboriginal people in the Pintupi culture. The Kiwia-Kura band. It is a band that's set up by the Kiwia-Kura people, Aboriginal people. They sing songs in Pintupi language, and they sing about the disasters happening in Kiwia-Kura community. They also spread the idea of drug-free, and also show people how the contemporary life is in the remote Western Desert of Australia. They have already came out 3 collections. The Tangeri culture. So the tribe culture is mostly about hunting and gathering bush products. They also like to host people from other communities. However, there is a lower area which is restricted to any other people apart from their own community, people from their own community. It's like their sacred space. So only people from their own community can get in. They have also set up a Kiwia-Kura Council, which hold meeting every month, and they discuss about the business, consider the financial reports of their community. They also set up for tourist attraction. They also set up several stone panels and record interesting stories on them. The ceremony and activities. As one of the traditional activities of the Kiwia-Kura community is that they burn bushfires before the season which most of the wildfire happens. So it's called the controlled burn. So they burn part of the bush to control, like before the wildfire actually happens, they burn it. They burn and control the fire, control the size of the fire themselves, so that when wildfire really happens, it does not damage that much. Recently, start from this century, they also hold the Indigenous Bilby Festival. It is a festival that spreading the idea of protecting the indigenous animal, especially the bilby. In this festival, they invite rangers and researchers to attend, and they spread the idea of environmental protection. The Pintupi language, it is a kind of Western desert language. It is now considered as a vulnerable language, which means only part of the world is still using this language, and the kids from that area is still learning that language. There is a school in the Kiwia-Kura community which still taught the Aboriginal children about the Pintupi language. That is most part of my presentation. Thank you for listening. And now let's welcome Yingfei to keep introduce to us about the scenarios and precedents. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Yingfei Liu. You could call me Sophie. I'm in charge of 2 parts of scenarios and precedents. So let's start. The main disaster in Quebecois region was the flood that occurred in March 2001. The area experienced unusual heavy rainfall across the desert, leading to widespread flooding. There are 3 reasons for flooding, which I will analyze in detail afterwards. This is 2 photos of Quebecois community flooding. Roads were destroyed. The first cause of flooding is heavy rainfall. In Quebecois, a desert area, the heavy rainfall posed a significant risk due to the lack of vegetation roots to stabilize the soil. The communities experienced the negative impact of heavy rains. And this is pictures of rainfall data for Australia in 2001. The orange marker is the Quebecois community. As you can see, the dark color, the more rainfall there is, which is very unusual for this year. Second cause of flood is the local topography. The Quebecois region has a natural basin with limited drainage. When heavy rainfall occurs, water cannot be easily flow away, resulting in accumulated water and subsequent flooding. The photos below also shows the landform features of basin. This is topographic map of Quebecois. We can see the number of closed circle, the contours, indicating that areas are low-lying regions surrounded by the mountains and hills. The third and the last cause of the flooding is high water table levels. Heavy rainfall lead to underground with fall of water, making it more easy to be flooding. Okay, let's move on to the rescue organization. The main organization responsible for the relief of the affected areas is the Australian government and the Western Australian government under the Australian government. The specific relief of the organizations are Emergency Management Australian and the Emergency Services Authorities of WA, which I might simplify by its rating as visa later, and the hierarchy between them is listed on the diagram inside. Okay, here's the rescue strategies. The first is emergency relocation of affected populations. After the floods, the relief organization relocated the affected population in 3 main moments for the safety of the population. The first was emergency relocation. The second was suitable at first, but due to the problem caused by alcohol, they moved to a third relocation until they come back home. The second is use of helicopter. Rescue organization has used helicopter in many operations. The 2 images has displayed they used helicopters to transform people and research people and rescue people in the disaster. The third strategy is use of the internet to distribute disaster informations. Below pictures is the flood notes posted by the FISA on their Facebook page. This is the official emergency disaster information website of FISA, where people and rescue can find how to help and how to rescue and how to protect themselves in real time. Okay, let's move to the post-disaster damage. The first 2 are damage to roads and damage to houses. It is clear that the prolonged heavy rainfall has damaged houses and roads and has affected the reconstruction process. The pictures shows the house here submerged in water after the peak of the floods. The third was violent flooding during the relocation of the residents to Moripoya station, which the media at the time attributes the fact that alcohol has been brought to the Aboriginal people at Moripoya station, and alcohol had made them lose their mind. Again, there are response to the subsequent injuries, and there are 4 organizations involved in the rescue, and I will talk about more relative ones together. First, the Fire and Emergency Service Authority of WA. It's the FISA. And Quebecois community. They launched the programs of private season visit in order to reduce the injuries in the event of the future disaster like flood. It's just the staff train the community workers to teach them how to handle and how to protect themselves in the rain season when the flood happened. Secondly, the FISA staff cultivate the good relationship with the people in the Quechua community to achieve the more harmony cooperations during the disaster in the future. In addition, in order to address the violent conflicts caused by alcohol, the relief workers relocated the residents to the area where the alcohol was prohibited. The contractor responsible for the post-disaster reconstruction and the Western Australian Planning Commission were the two organizations that did the engineering works. Constructors clean up the houses in Quechua and grade the surrounding roads. The Western Australian Planning Commission was responsible for the constructions of the flood control facility. The red parts in the pictures below is the facilities after flood. Okay, this is enough of my scenario selection. Let's see what's some precedents to help the disaster victims. First is access. The temperate, the rainbow crossing bridge. This bridge can be adapted to various situations, especially in flood, because it can float. It can save the very significant time in the process of saving people. And the second is the flash pack life jacket. This life jacket can be fixed to a polo and cannot be opened normally. It only can be removed when it's submerged in water and can save a life in a pinch. Third is the flood guard, stabilizing device in flood. This rescue device can be fixed to a poster or any heavy object when flooding arrives to protect the people from being swept away. Deaths in flood are often due to the swift current, and even you can swim, you will run out of energy. This rescue device allows people to save their energy and wait for the rescuer to arrive. All of this design for flooding, I feel, could be inspired for our assignment too. Okay, that's the end of my section. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yingfei, for introducing the scenarios and precedents. This is Xingyi again. And as a conclusion of our presentation, we came up with this theoretical framework. So it's divided into 3 parts, just like our presentation. And then among all these 3 parts, we came up the most problematic issues that we found during our research. And then we came up with the design ideas and intentions that could probably solve these problematic issues. For instance, for the site and climate, we found that drought is one of the environmental problem of the Quechua community. So we think if we could have a crack drainage facility that could crack drainage as a source of water. And then for the inhabitant and culture, we found that most of the residents in the Quechua community have low education. So probably we will need a translation between Pintupi language, which is the local language, and English. And maybe we could have more pictures as instructions instead of language and words. For the scenario and precedents, we found that the rescue after disaster is pretty hard at the Quechua community. So we come up with ideas that could help the rescue much more easier, such as a clean area for medical activities, such as the surgeries. Maybe we could have a medical booth. And also we came up with tent that could inflate and flow on the water as a temporary residential living area. And this is our reference list. And thank you. That's all of our presentation. Thank you for listening.